Matikanetannhauser. My word, what a name. You see why the community calls her Mambo? Nobody wants to deal with that, but I digress. Hello and welcome back to Pawn Shop 75. This is the first of many Umamusume origin videos where I explain the histories behind our favorite characters and how they're incorporated. And today's Uma is Matikanetannhauser. How can that run off my tongue so mostly easily? I have no idea. Matikanetannhauser is one of the many male Japanese racehorses turned into an Umamusume by Sai Games. The rendition of him is portrayed as, in a word, ordinary, and his racing history is pretty much that way too. Or is it? Anyway, before I can do anything else, you are probably begging your screen to know, what is up with that name? Matikanetannhauser is a mashup of two words, Machikane and Tannhäuser. But wait, if you take a closer look at those two words, something's off. It's only Matikane, not Machikane. Even though there's no pronunciation difference, it was still something that had to be done. When you register a horse name, there's a few hurdles to jump through. On the Japanese side, they had to axe the chuanpu, which is basically a dash that makes a vowel long, as the Japan Association for International Racing and Stud Book limits names to 10 characters, and the chuanpu unluckily brings it to 11. On the Latin side, however, things got even murkier. The International Agreement on Breeding, Racing, and Wagering prohibits a name longer than 18 characters, including spaces, and both these words, without a space, would bring it to 19, again one character over the limit. The reason why Machikane had to be shortened was because this rulebook also states that subjects from abroad must be spelled the way it is in its own country, and since Tannhäuser is actually the name of a German opera, which we'll get to later, it had to be Machikane that got shortened. This is what it would be if it was directly romanized from Japanese, however. But what even is the first part of this word? This is an eponym, or in horse racing, a prefix added to horses of the same owner. Tannhäuser's real-life counterpart was owned by a man named Masuo Hosokawa, who, as this prefix implies, owned Machikane Fukukataru as well. I don't think they're related at all in the franchise, and instead when they met each other, it was probably the equivalent of you going to school and meeting another person with the same first name as you. They're also roommates in the franchise. Tannhäuser is a 19th century German opera created by Wilhelm Richard Wagner with 3 acts. The protagonist is Tannhäuser, a knight and minnesinger, or a German poet-musician whose songs carry the theme of courtly love. The story starts with him leaving the magical underground realm of the goddess of love Venus, or Aphrodite as she was known to the Greeks, after spending a year there. He meets the Landgrave, which is basically a feudal German ruler, and a group of knights who recognize him as an old friend. They urge him to return to the castle, Wartburg, and eventually sway him by reminding him that his singing once swayed the Landgrave's niece, Elizabeth. Here's the problem though. One of the knights, Wolfram, also likes Elizabeth. Once they get there, Elizabeth is overjoyed to see Tannhäuser, but she is unable to get him to tell where he's been. They meet in the Hall of Song, which he hasn't set foot in since Tannhäuser left. The Landgrave, happy to see her return to the hall, decides to host a song contest, with the nature of love being the same, practically the same of the whole play. While the knights are all focused on themes of courtly and idealized love, Tannhäuser, after his time with Venus, is, out of tune with his peers. In this, it is also revealed to everyone around him that he has been in her realm, and it's safe to say that Tannhäuser is as good as dead by now. But Elizabeth throws herself between Tannhäuser and the knights, and reminds them that she can still atone for his sins. So, Tannhäuser joins a group of pilgrims, which are people who undertake a long journey for a religious or spiritual purpose, departing for Rome to see the Pope. Several months later, a group of pilgrims returns from Rome, but Tannhäuser is not among them. Racked with grief, Elizabeth prays for her soul to be received into heaven. That night, a lone, weary Tannhäuser returns. He tells Wolfram of his journey to Rome and how he saw so many people pardoned, but he himself was not. Cue the gasp! The Pope said he could not forgive him so much as his staff could bear green leaves. Once he learns of Elizabeth's death, he asks for her to pray for him in heaven and collapses dead. The next morning, a group of pilgrims arrives, telling of a miracle. The Pope's staff has blossomed. Well, that was a depressing turn of events. Classic literature, am I right? Obviously, this is a very rough synopsis, but it does give us information to tell, well, nothing about this really relates to our character here. There's three main, but very minor references. Number one, the opera had three versions created by Wagner, the original version for Dresden, Germany, a heavily revised version for Paris, France, and finally a slightly edited version for Vienna, Austria. This is why she's on her third hat. But enough about operas. Let's have a look at this race record. Graded wise, 3 G2 wins and 1 G3 win. And a boatload of G1 finishes that aren't even on the podium? Huh? Umamusume tends to romanticize horse racing, in that it tends to only follow around the champions of the sport, and we tend not to get to know those who are left in the dust. Usually when we have non-spectacular records, the franchise works them with personalities that reflect this, like how Nice Nature is cynical, how Haru Urara wants to win a single race, and how Twin Turbo is comically a loose cannon. So the personality they gave Tannhäuser was optimistic to prove to everyone she isn't ordinary. And she isn't ordinary. The first thing is, just placing in a G1 race is ridiculous. About 21,000 horse races are run a year in Japan. 26 of those are G1s. That's 0.1%. Well, those are modern numbers, but I'm guessing with the time period of the 90s and 2000s most of the UMAs stem from, the numbers were probably way higher back then. But what about the second thing? If you look at all these placings, you'll see Tannhäuser's secret weapon, consistency. As far as I know, because of the fact that the horse is able to place in these G1s with such consistency, those who bet on these placings made a lot of cash. I hope those who did this didn't bet on a high place in the Japan Cups. Tannhäuser's grand earnings came to a total of about 517 million yen. That converts to about 3 million USD. I'm not exactly sure when that number was tallied, but if we're just going off the horse's last race, if we adjust that number for inflation, it goes to about 7 million USD now. According to the JRA, 75% of these earnings will be paid out to bettors. I gotta say, it's kind of funny how much real-world gambling has influenced the franchise where racing is a no-betting sport. To be honest, there's no way we can blame Tannhäuser for these losses. During this time period, G1 golds were being taken by Bihano Bourbon, Rice Shower, etc, etc. Like, how can you compete with that? These two are also the main cause of Tannhäuser's classic year in 1992 getting overshadowed in the franchise, a lot due to the drama between Bourbon and Rice the Kakuka show. Not all of it was perfectly consistent. One of the things that both real life and in-game Tannhäuser are quite well known for is that they both have terrible luck. Infamously, right before 1994's Japan Cup, Tannhäuser was scratched, or withdrew from the race. Wanna know why? A nosebleed. Yes, you heard me right. A nosebleed. Well, it wasn't just a nosebleed, it was epistaxis, which is just the medical term for a nosebleed. These health issues were common for Tannhäuser. Just a month later, just before the Arima Kinen, possibly the most prestigious race in all of Japan, due to a severe allergic reaction, the horse developed urticaria, also called hives. The legend says that Tannhäuser might have ingested a spider before the race. And in early 1995, the horse also had a bacterial infection called phlegmon, which forced Tannhäuser off the track for even longer. If you have a look at the race record here, you can just see this terrible drop-off after the Autumn Tenno show, with 2 scratched races, and then just silence. But fortunately, on July 9th, 1995, at the Takamatsunomiya High, which was the G2 at this time, eventually it was shortened from a medium to a sprint and upgraded to a G1. The gold was given to Tannhäuser. Talk about a comeback story. Things were more or less downhill from there, but still a great race record after all. Tannhäuser's retirement farm serves meals, so that's why her family owns a restaurant in the franchise. And that's all I have to say about Matikanetannhauser. Even though that name isn't the worst thing in the world to say when you get the hang of it, it's still quite hard to say an 18-character name just casually. I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video if you're interested in seeing more of this series, and feel free to comment if you have a suggestion or something to say.